Hi, this is Peter and Rob, and we want to talk about our own spiritual experiences, our own spiritual bypassing, and the deeper work we have done so far. And we want to invite you to learn from us or come with us on this way to spiritual depths and honesty, which we have discovered. So, first, I want to introduce Rob. Tell us a little bit about who you are and about your story, please.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Yeah, so my name's Rob. I was brought up in the UK, um, and I now live in Spain. And I've done for a long time. Um, yeah, my spiritual path, for want of a better term, started when, like everybody will, was quite young. I was looking for happiness in a world that didn't seem to make much sense, or I couldn't find much satisfaction certainly through work, career. Um, all the traditional areas that we've been taught, that success didn't bring me that happiness. And then the same thing happened within relationships. I didn't find the thing I was looking for. And then I started traveling and ended up living in Spain. And again, it was a spiritual search, which at that point I didn't realize it was a search. I didn't know what I was looking for exactly. So it was experiencing all the traditional aspects of life, which then ultimately failed. And that pushed me into a more spiritual search and more alternative way of living. And I got into reflexology and Reiki and healing, and then felt that maybe that was what I wanted to do. It seemed to make sense to get into healing. And then I slowly realized it worked to an extent, but I also realized that I had a lot of my own healing to do and still have. I mean, it's an ongoing process. And then I got involved with a healing modality that took me out to India, which led to really an introduction into um, self-realization or enlightenment through some Hindu teachings. And that kind of became the goal because that seemed to be like the umbrella catch-all cure for everything. Enlightenment, liberation. This will cure all ills, all maladies, all suffering. So that's the path I was on or am on to an extent still. Um,
Can you tell us a
but that,
little bit about this Oneness University and about this
yeah,
charity?
so the Oneness University was an incredible experience. It was based on um, basically achieving enlightenment. They were two masters who said that they would be able to give an experience of enlightenment rather than teach about it. But it was a very expensive thing, so there was a big financial element to it. It was very expensive. So that was a big issue for me as well. But I had the money at the time, and you know, uh, life provided the money, or God provided the money for me to be able to go there and do it. So I think that's how I reconciled it at the time in my head. If the money's appeared, then I'm supposed to go and do it. Looking back on it, I'm not sure if it was all as transparent as it could have been. But certainly there are a lot of people with issues with money, abundance, um, relationships, and their main teaching was through relationship. I mean, uh, which I thought was very, very interesting, that everything in life is relationship, and the quality of those relationships really speak to being human. And I still feel to an extent that I haven't connected with completely with humans. I don't really still don't really know what it is to be a human. And I think that the experiences that I had there were so powerful, and I had a sort of Kalpa Samadhi experience, which completely took me out of the system, and many, many other very refined spiritual experiences outside of the body. And it was very, very difficult for me to come back into the body when I when the course finished, and when that period finished, I came back to Spain, and then I really got started. When I started working very, very hard, I got into a job, working many, many hours a day, making money, obviously, and just trying to kind of rebuild the jigsaw puzzle, because a lot of the pieces were actually missing when I came back. I wasn't the same person. A lot of things had fallen away. And then, so then that whole part, and there was nothing. It was a very pleasant thing, because it was, I've got something now. This is what I want. Blah blah blah. And then and then slowly the ego took over that whole trip, and it became basically spiritual bypassing, um, and kind of not wanting to be in the body, uh, not wanting to engage socially. Um, Although in the material sense, I was working very hard in terms of relationships. My only interest was to be, when I had free time, just meditate, be out of the body, be out of this, and then slowly, um, that's that stopped working as a solution to the day-to-day issues. And then I slowly realized that I'd fallen into a, bypassing mode, and I needed to get back into the body. So I came across a teacher who would teach surrender, and started working with her technique, and that brought me back into the material world, not in a financial sense, I mean in a physical sense, back into the body. Which is where I find myself now. And then I'm working on other modalities, working on basically repressed emotions now, repressed anger, the things that, because I was so bypassing to such an extent that I thought those things didn't really matter. The trauma, the even the ancestral things from, our previous generations. Okay, well, I'm not those things. That's not my true essence, so I don't need to worry about those. And that's really where the damage has been done a bit, and that's really where I find myself now, trying to not to rectify, because the gift is that you have to do, you know about presence, so you can come from presence and marry the two elements. So I think without those experiences, and without that journey, it wouldn't a proper healing couldn't really happen, I don't think. So I'm in this middle of this healing and freeing up a lot of the trauma, and very successfully at the moment. But there's still a long way to go, obviously, and perhaps that's life. There's always going to be, I don't think there's a finite point in this life where you're going to be the finished article. But so yeah, that's where I find myself now. And I would invite anyone that resonates with this to join us on this really process. We don't know where it's going. We're trying to do it from the most honest place that we can, and the most earnest place that we can. And we invite anyone who resonates with what we're talking about to join us.
Thank you, Rob. Yeah, my own story is I'm coming from East Germany. I grew up in a communist, very protected environment. After the wall came down, we had a lot of hope of a better future. I was part of a revolution at that time. And then I went to America to A Course in Miracles community. And in this community, we had also a lot of light and experiences with enlightenment. We worked also, we had to earn our own money, but we didn't have to work too much, 6 hours per day. We all lived together. We lived cheaply. And the spiritual bypassing was a big issue, because emotional outburst, emotional pain was not part of the program. I mean, there was no talking about integration delight, no talking about emotional healing. They always thought, or they taught, that the light is doing the work. So we don't have to do nothing else except to show up in the light session. In the light session, we played music, and on the waves of the music, we flew to the other worlds. That was easy to do, to escape the matrix. And for all of us, after the master teacher, who was the guru of this community in Wisconsin, after the master teacher died and one more year passed by, everything fell apart. And the people had to go back. We were promised to escape successfully physically from this world. There was every week the master teacher said, on Saturday at 4 o'clock we are leaving. But finally we were still there. And we had to deal with it. And many had a hard time or went back to drugs or whatever. I mean, to say truly yes, to be here was a big issue, and maybe many have never done this since then. I came to Spain. I had a girlfriend here, and I worked also, but I still was outside my own life. I didn't look into the corners. I knew that incorporation, to live in the body, was important, but it is a step-by-step process to open deeper and deeper into my emotional pain. We both have issues, I think, with the early childhood. I came to the world too early, 6 weeks too early. I was in isolation for the first 6 weeks and pure oxygen. So I know what separation and being left behind means. And this questions or issues which are still stored in the body. But now we have techniques, we have modalities to really look honestly and solution-oriented into these questions. I had 2 experiences on a physical level, which I still think about. And one was when we were here in Germany on an island with friends. I had to go back to the mainland in order to pick up a sweater for me, and I went in a different path, and I fall into the hole of mud. I was in the mud until here, and I knew I had only one chance because there was no ground. What should I do? And there were some eagles in the lake. It was a very wild, remote area, and this eagle called me in one direction. I was swimming out of this mud into the lake, back into the lake, escaped. And this is basically on the spiritual path, the idea we have to go just in one direction and never look back. But finally, I have to look back. Another thing I did was a fire walk. It was very tough. The stage before, we had to run in the Indian era which was pointed here to the trough. We had to destroy the era with our skin, and then we had really to walk into the fire. We had to know before why we're doing this, and the fire was going to the whole body. It was not something like I'm walking on wet, cool meadow.
You were walking on hot coals. You mean like hot coals? Wow.
So, and the solution was, it was very, very hot.
Yeah,
it was the embers was made with trees. They burned trees. I mean, it was incredible for the whole day. And in order to be successful, we have to calm fire, not try to pretend it's not fire. We have to accept the fire into our body, and the fire was really going to the whole body.
Wow, so you transmute the wolf.
It is I was insane. Before I started, it was the coldest night in the year, in the winter. And there were 2 thought systems in my mind. One said, you're insane, you will die. And the other thought system said, you will be fine. Others have done this before. And I wanted to be the first. And the funny thing was that my feet were burning like fire on the snow. I was standing on the snow. It was 15 degrees Celsius. And when I was walking on the fire, it was fine, just fine. And the others came after me. And one guy was even carrying his wife. And there's no physical explanation for this. They try to pretend they know everything, the scientists, but it's not true. There is something extraordinary happening, and it has to do with the group, and it has to do also with the fire, letting the fire in, right?
So you didn't get burned?
And the second time I was not focused, I get burned a little bit.
Yeah.
And then the third time I was focused again, and it healed. It was gone.
Wow.
Well, it was very powerful. The effect was lasted for 6 weeks. It was this kind of sensation of total cleaning.
Yeah, amazing.
So, and here we are again. I think we have to go to the fire of our own emotions to stop pushing them down and trying to exercise our spiritual control with breathing, meditation. I'm fine, I'm good. No, we have to look what is really inside me and what needs to be seen, embraced, accepted, and basically saved or healed in us.